There are places that hold on to people, even after they've vanished. This story isn't mine, but it's been living in my head ever since I heard it. Because when someone tells you the smile never left the wall, not even after they tore it down, you don't forget that. The guy who told me this swore it happened to his cousin Jake. Jake wasn't the type to believe in anything that didn't bleed or breathe. He was a contractor, a stubborn, skeptical kind of man, the sort that laughed at ghost stories and never locked his door. But something happened when he moved into his brother's old place. Something that broke him. Jake's brother, David, had vanished a year earlier. Just disappeared. No signs of struggle, no packed bags, not even a damn receipt left behind. The cops found his car parked 2 blocks away from his apartment in downtown Scranton. That was it. No leads, no activity on his cards, nothing on the cameras. Just a blank space where a person used to exist. Jake didn't really grieve the way most people do. He didn't cry or search for answers. He just took over the lease. Told his family it was better to keep the place in the family, that rent was cheap and he needed the space. But deep down, I think he just wanted to be close to something that felt like his brother. The building was old. Real old. One of those pre-war constructions with warped floors, humming pipes, and windows that never really shut. David's apartment was on the 3rd floor, down a hallway with flickering lights, and the kind of carpet that stinks of mildew, no matter how many times you scrub it. Jake said the first time he stepped inside, it smelled like wet plaster and something sweeter, something rotten. The place had been untouched since the investigation. Dust on everything, fridge still unplugged, one of the lights in the living room hanging by a single exposed wire. But it wasn't the mess that got him. It was the wall in the bedroom. There was this patch of paint, different from the rest. Pale, almost gray, like someone had tried to cover something, but gave up halfway. The texture was wrong too. Like the wall wasn't smooth. Like it had a bulge. He ran his hand over it and felt a faint outline, a curve maybe. A dent? He couldn't tell. Just knew it gave him a chill. That night, he didn't sleep well. He kept the door to the bedroom open, watching the hall from the couch. Said he felt eyes on him the entire night. But he blamed the stress, told himself it was just being back in the place where David disappeared. He tried to push through it. Over the next few days, little things started to happen. His tools would shift overnight. Doors he was sure he'd locked would creak open. The bathroom mirror had a small crack that seemed to grow every time he looked at it. And always, when he passed the bedroom door, he swore he could see something, just for a second, in the corner of the room. Not movement, not light. Just a shape. Squatting low. Like someone was sitting there. Then came the smile. He said he saw it for the first time on his 4th night. He had just walked past the bedroom and glanced in. There was nothing unusual, just that uneven patch of wall. But when he looked again, closer, he saw a faint shadow. 2 curves, like lips stretched wide, buried under plaster. Smiling. Jake didn't scare easy, but this was wrong. He walked in, flicked the light on. Nothing. The shadow was gone. The patch of wall just sat there like it always did. But he didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. The next morning, he took a chisel and started digging. He told me the wall wasn't just paint over drywall. It was layers of it, paint over cement. Cement over something else. He worked for hours, scraping and tearing until the whole section crumbled. And what he found underneath wasn't a pipe or a sealed vent. It was a cavity, a small hollow space, just big enough for a man to crouch in. And inside that space were fingernail scratches, deep ones, desperate ones. And carved into the back wall, almost lovingly, was a smile. Wide, crude, and permanent. Jake backed out of the room and slammed the door. He didn't open it again that night. But as he lay on the couch, sweating under the weight of his own heartbeat, he swears he heard something from inside that room. Breathing. Long, wet. Deliberate. And then came the soft tap against the bedroom door. Like knuckles. Like something waiting. Jake didn't talk to anyone that next day. He sat on the edge of his bathtub, looking at his hands. They were covered in dust and small cuts. Tiny splinters embedded in the creases of his fingers. But what bothered him most wasn't what he'd found inside the wall. It was that when he went back the next morning to double-check if the hollow space had been real, if maybe he'd imagined the whole thing, there was nothing there. No hole, no scratched wall, just a smooth, flawless surface, as if someone had patched it overnight. The paint was fresh, still tacky when he touched it, like it had just dried. Jake knew no one else had been in the apartment. He always locked the door. Always. But now he wasn't sure if that even mattered. He stared at that spot for hours. Sometimes he swore the wall breathed. It would swell slightly and then sink again, like something behind it was moving in rhythm, waiting for the right moment to push through. He tried to convince himself it was just faulty plumbing or an old building shifting on its foundation. But by now, even Jake didn't believe his own lies. That night, he left all the lights on and took a hammer with him to the couch. He told himself it was just until morning, that he'd fix whatever the hell was wrong with that room and be done with it. But sleep never came. At around 3:12 a.m., the hallway light flickered once, twice, then died. Jake didn't move. He just listened. And that's when he heard it again, the slow, steady breathing. But this time, it wasn't from inside the bedroom. It was closer, just past the bathroom, then right at the edge of the kitchen. And then it stopped. There was a pause, a silence so thick it pressed against his chest. And then the smile. It was there, just floating at the edge of the dark, behind the couch. He couldn't see a face, couldn't see anything else, just the smile. Bright, impossibly white, stretched too wide across what might have been a human jaw. But it was too high off the floor, too still. Jake didn't run. He couldn't. He just closed his eyes and waited for it to move. But it never did. When he finally looked again, it was gone. He didn't sleep again that night. The next day, he drove to a hardware store and bought 5 floodlights, a security cam, and a brand new crowbar. He rigged everything to point at the bedroom and sat in the hallway, watching through the live cam feed. For hours, nothing happened. Then, at exactly 2:37 a.m., the feed went black. Not static, not glitching, just darkness. Jake stood up, crowbar in hand, heart pounding like a second skull inside his chest. He stepped into the hallway, into the reach of the dead camera's view. And he saw it again, not the smile this time, but the shape. The crouched shape in the far corner of the room, facing the wall, like a man praying to something buried in the drywall. Jake flicked the light switch. Nothing. He stepped forward. The air was thick, warmer somehow. He raised the crowbar and shouted. Anything to shatter whatever the hell was standing in his brother's bedroom. But the moment he crossed the threshold, it was gone again. No shape. No shadow. Only the wall. That goddamn wall. Smooth. Clean. Smiling. He ran that crowbar through it, over and over, screaming, crying. Chunks of plaster fell around him like snow. The wall broke open again. The hollow space returned. This time, he found something else inside. A Polaroid. Old. Yellowed at the edges. Of a room. The same bedroom. Same angle. Only in this photo, there was a figure crouched in the corner. And the smile, the same one he'd seen, glowing wide, was burned into the emulsion. On the back, in shaky handwriting. He's still smiling. Don't turn your back. Jake locked the bedroom and duct taped the door shut. He threw the camera away. He unplugged the lights. And then he drove to my house, unannounced, shaking like he'd come back from war. That's when he told me everything. Sitting across my table, face pale, hands trembling. He asked me one question, over and over. If I tore the wall down, why is he still there? Jake stayed with me for 3 days. He didn't eat much. Barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he said he could see the corner of the room. Always the same one. Always with that thing crouched low, head tilted, smile wide. Waiting. I thought he was having a breakdown. Maybe the trauma of David's disappearance had finally cracked something open. But that was before I saw it for myself. The first night he crashed on my couch, I woke up around 4 a.m. to get water. The hallway light was off. I remember that detail because I always leave it on. But it wasn't just off, it was dark. Not the kind of dark you get from shadows. It felt heavier, like something was pressing down on the house. As I turned the corner toward the kitchen, I stopped. Jake was standing in the middle of the living room. Not moving, not speaking, just staring into the corner. When I followed his gaze, I felt it too. Something was there. I didn't see it, at least not fully. But I knew. The air was thick again. Charged. Like before a thunderstorm. My skin itched. My stomach turned. And I swear, for half a second, I saw a flash of white in the corner. Not a full smile. Just the edge of one. Jake turned to me and said, he came through the wall. His voice was hollow. Not scared. Not angry. Just resigned. He followed me. We didn't go back to sleep. The next morning, Jake was gone. Left without a word. Took his bag, his tools, even the Polaroid. I called him 12 times. No answer. I drove past the old apartment that afternoon. His truck was parked outside, so I went up. I know what you're thinking. Dumb idea. But I had to know if he was okay. Had to see for myself what the hell he'd been dealing with. I knocked on the door. Nothing. Called his name. No answer. But the door wasn't locked. Inside it was cold. Freezing cold. And completely dark. No lights. No electricity. Just this hum. A low vibration in the floor, like something breathing under the building. I stepped into the living room. Tools scattered on the floor. A single chair facing the bedroom. The door to it was open now. Wide open. And the tape was gone. I should have left right then. But I didn't. I walked closer. That smell hit me again like dust, wet concrete, and something sweet. Too sweet. Like rotting fruit. When I reached the doorway, I stopped. The room was empty. No furniture. No windows. No light. But the wall. It was back. That same patch. Same off-color paint. Same shape. And in the very center, something new had been carved into the plaster. A wide, stretched smile. Fresh. Red at the edges. Not paint. Not marker. Blood. I backed away, slow, heart jackhammering. That's when I heard the voice. Not a whisper. Not a shout. Just one word. Right behind me. Stay. I turned around. Nothing. No one. But when I looked back at the wall, the smile was wider. I ran. I didn't close the door. Didn't look back. Just got in my car and drove. I didn't stop until I was halfway out of the city. Jake never answered his phone again. A week later, his truck was found idling on the edge of a reservoir 30 miles north. No sign of him. No note. No body. The authorities assumed the worst. But I knew better. He didn't run. He was taken. And I think he wasn't the first. Because 2 days after they found the truck, I got a letter. No return address. No name. Just a photo inside. A Polaroid. The same room. Same angle. And in the corner, crouched low, head tilted, was me, smiling. After I got that Polaroid, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I kept telling myself it was a joke. Some sick prank. Maybe Jake had mailed it before disappearing. Just one last mind game to mess with me. But that didn't explain the photo. It was recent. I recognized the shirt I was wearing in it. I'd worn it 3 nights ago, and I remembered it because of a bleach stain near the collar. The same stain was in the picture. Same angle. Same crouched pose in the corner, and the same smile. Except I'd never posed like that. I never crouched in any corner of my apartment. And I sure as hell never smiled like that. The thing is, I started to feel watched after that. Not in the paranoid way. I'm talking about the kind of watched where you don't want to turn your head because you know something's just out of view. I'd sit on my couch, watching TV, and catch movement in the reflection of the screen. Like someone pacing behind me. And every night, always around 2 or 3 a.m., the lights would dim, just a little. And that sickly sweet smell would return. Rotting fruit and plaster. Sometimes I could hear the faint creak of floorboards from the hallway, like weight shifting from one foot to the other. He was getting closer. I started locking every door inside my apartment. Closet, bathroom, bedroom. It didn't help, because I began to see the smile in places it shouldn't be. Steam on the bathroom mirror. Frost on the window. Once, in the dust on my coffee table. Same curve. Same shape. Wide and unnatural. He wasn't just in the walls anymore. He was in me. I started waking up in different positions. Once, I found myself curled up in the corner of my living room, knees to chest, head down. Just like Jake described. No memory of moving there. I began finding Polaroids around the apartment. In the fridge. Inside books. Behind the mirror. All of them were of me. Always in that same crouched pose. Always with that same grin. I tried to burn them once. Set fire to the entire pile in my kitchen sink. But they didn't burn. The flame curled around the edges, flickered, then died. Like the air itself rejected the idea. And then came the worst part. I started hearing Jake's voice. Not in my head. Not in dreams. In the apartment. Sometimes from the corner of the room. Sometimes from inside the walls. Don't fight it, he'd whisper. Or, he's already smiling through you. Or worse, you brought him here. I stopped going to work. Couldn't think straight. Couldn't be around people. Every face started to blur into that grin. I'd walk down the street and feel someone staring at me from every alley. Every window. Every mirror. I smashed every reflective surface in my place. Didn't help. Because then I started to see the smile in the dark. No reflection. No outline. Just hovering. Still. Perfectly white. And always watching. I tried leaving town. Packed a bag, got in my car, started driving south. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't even bring my phone. Just ran. 2 hours into the drive, I pulled into a gas station just off I-81. Needed water. And a break from my own thoughts. I walked into the bathroom, looked up at the mirror, and there it was. Not my reflection. Jake's. But twisted. Smiling. Mouth split far past what was human. Teeth like nails. And behind him, in the corner of the mirror, was the shape. The crouched thing. Waiting. I ran. Didn't even get the water. Got in the car and drove back home like a coward. Because I knew then that it didn't matter how far I went. I wasn't running from it. I was carrying it with me. And I think maybe I always was. Because when I got back to my apartment, taped to the front door was another photo. This time it wasn't of me. It was of you. I didn't open the envelope right away. I stared at it for hours, sitting on my kitchen floor, back against the cabinets. My hands were shaking too much. I already knew what would be inside. I just didn't want to know who it would be this time. Eventually I gave in. One photo. No writing. Just a Polaroid of a woman at a bus stop, glancing over her shoulder, unaware the camera had caught her. Behind her, just barely in frame, crouched low in the corner of the bus shelter, was that shape. You know which one? The smile wasn't on her. It was on him. Somehow, the smile always knew where to look. Even when the rest of him stayed hidden in shadow or distortion. It was always front and center. Perfect. Clean. Almost proud. I didn't recognize the woman. But something told me I would. Soon. That night, things got worse. The hallway in my apartment stretched longer than it used to. I'm not imagining this. I measured it. It was 5 feet longer than when I moved in. The far end turned into a slow curve, and when I followed it, I found myself back at my own front door. No explanation. No logic. Just the smile. Scratched into the wood. My skin started to itch constantly, especially around my mouth. My jaw ached. I avoided mirrors. When I accidentally caught my reflection on a black screen or window, I could swear my mouth looked wider. Not stretched. Not bruised. Just like it didn't quite belong to me. I kept hearing laughter. Not loud. Not joyful. Just soft. Close. Wet. It came from the walls, from the vents, sometimes even from beneath my bed. Once, I heard it directly behind me while brushing my teeth. I didn't turn around. I just stared into the mirror and kept brushing, until I realized I'd been doing it for over an hour. My gums were bleeding. My toothbrush was bent backwards. I tried calling for help. Therapist. Pastor. Even an old woman someone on Reddit swore could clean energy. None of them answered. And then the electricity died. My entire building went dark. The hallway light, the one I always kept on, burned out with a loud pop. My neighbors were gone. Or silent. I pounded on their doors for hours. No answer. The city outside my window looked off. Not quiet. Just paused. Like a painting. Frozen. When I returned to the bedroom, the door was gone. No frame. No hinges. Just wall. And in the center of it, the smile. Drawn in red again. Fresher this time. Still wet. I didn't want to know with what. I began to feel it inside me. Not metaphorically. Not as trauma or fear. Physically. Under my skin. Moving. When I pressed my fingers to my chest, I felt a second heartbeat. Not in rhythm with my own. Slower. Hungrier. I stopped sleeping. I don't mean insomnia. I mean sleep refused to come. I'd lie down and close my eyes, and my body would jerk awake violently. Not from dreams. From interruption. Like something was yanking me back up every time I started to drift off. And every time I opened my eyes, I saw it. In the corner. Not moving. Not breathing. Just smiling. I tried filming it. Set up my phone, pointed right at the corner, hit record. In the footage, the corner looked empty. Until exactly 2:37 a.m. That's when I appeared on screen. Me. Naked. Smiling. Crouched in the corner. Staring into the lens. For exactly 1 minute. Then the video ended. I didn't remember any of it. But that morning my knees hurt. My jaw cracked when I yawned. My fingernails were filled with dust. I haven't left the apartment in 6 days. Because I know what'll happen if I do. I'll take it with me. It wants to be seen. Wants to be carried. Wants people to remember that smile. To dream of it. To wonder if it's real. I think that's how it spreads. Through memory. Through the shape we leave in the dark when we think we're alone. The smile is always the last thing people see before they go missing. And the ones who are left behind, we keep seeing it, even with our eyes closed. V stopped counting the days. Time doesn't work right in here anymore. The light never changes. My phone won't charge. The hands on the clock haven't moved in a while. Not since the night I saw myself smile in the reflection of the microwave door. Not just a smile. His smile. That thing's been watching me for weeks. Or maybe longer. Maybe it's always been watching, and I'm just now catching up. But here's the thing no one tells you. The smile doesn't hurt you. Not right away. It waits. Watches. It curls around your mind like smoke, settling into every crack you didn't know you had. And then one day, it uses your voice. Moves your hands. Crouches your body down in the corner of a room you thought was safe. And you smile too. That's when it owns you. Not when you scream. Not when you run. But when you smile back. I know I should have burned this place down. I thought about it. I stood with the matches in hand. But something stopped me. A feeling. A whisper. A promise. That maybe, if I stayed long enough, quiet enough, still enough, I'd understand. That's how it gets you. Makes you curious. Makes you want to see what's on the other side of the wall. So I started scratching too. Not to escape. To open it again. I think Jake understood that before I did. I think he didn't vanish. I think he stepped through. Because the smile doesn't just appear. It invites you. And once you smile back, you're part of it. It lives in the forgotten corners. In flickering hallways. In mirrors that don't quite reflect what they should. It waits in cracks in the drywall and the space between blinking. And now, I can hear someone new. Not Jake. Someone closer. They've been standing outside my apartment door for a while now. I can hear them breathing. Hesitating. Curious. Maybe they got my letter. Maybe they saw the photo. Maybe they just felt it calling. I want to warn them. I do. But when I open my mouth, the words don't come out. Only the smile does. It spreads first across my lips. Then to my cheeks. Then further. Wider. Until it's not a smile anymore. It's a wound. And it's not mine. You understand now, don't you? You've been listening all this time. Sitting there. In the dark. And I bet you haven't turned around once. Because you're not alone in the room. There's a corner behind you. And he's already there. Smiling. Just for you. That was today's story. If you made it this far, let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, tell me if you've ever heard of anything similar happening near where you live. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more chilling stories coming your way. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.